Hi Jens.
Hi, Antoine.
While preparing this podcast, I came across a line that struck me: logistics as a lifesaver. It was on the German website of Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders.
This sounds really interesting. And as someone in marketing, I have a soft spot for strong messages. And that line, I think, really nails it. It's easy to imagine that logistics at MSF isn't just important, it can literally save lives.
Yeah, it's really important for their teams. They need medicines, they need equipment, water, food. So it's part of their daily business.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking today about. So, how MSF managed to keep a supply chain running even in crisis zones and difficult circumstances, and how we at AEB, and especially you, Antoine, as a project manager and a supply chain expert, were able to contribute to this a little bit.
Yeah. And that's why we are thrilled here to welcome our guest, Jan Kanzleiter. He's at MSF as a logistics specialist, as an IT expert, and as a supply chain professional.
Yeah, Jan, it's great to have you here and welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Jan, let's jump right in. What is your role at MSF? And perhaps you can start with who are you?
Hey, yeah, my name is Jan. I'm 52 years old, living and working in Berlin, and I'm coordinating the end-to-end supply chain excellence unit of the operational center of Amsterdam of MSF.
Okay. What does your daily work look like? I imagine that you manage your supply chain and activities from a kind of control tower in Berlin, or what does it? How can I visualize that?
Well, in my role, I'm not that much operational, but like I'm rather sitting behind a computer trying to coordinate projects for continuous improvement and yeah, different other topics such as analytics and yeah, and that's what I'm currently doing. Before starting to do that, I was traveling a lot. Also working in humanitarian projects of MSF.
Okay. So you had projects all around the world or in a certain zone in special?
Well, mainly in Central, Eastern Africa and Southern Africa,
Okay.
such as Ethiopia, Sudan, Congo.
And what have you done there? So, and what were we responsible for when you were in Africa?
Well, that started for sure. In the beginning, I was working as a so-called project logistician. So I was supporting the medical operations with technical and supply chain support, but very local. Then over time, I was growing in my experience, and I took over about more responsible roles up to the point of being a so-called logistics coordinator on country level. So where I'm was coordinating the operations from various other logistics and supply chain operations from the various projects which we were running in this area.
Yeah, that's perhaps a good point to have a bit more information about MSF. I suppose most listeners will have heard from it, but could you give a brief introduction to what is MSF doing as an organization?
Well, as you might know, MSF was created something like 50 years ago. So I'm pretty much the same age as the organization. And it was funded in France by medical doctors and journalists. And but over time, it was growing and growing in size. And in the meantime, it's not anymore a French organization, but more an international organization, which is with various branches in various countries and all over the globe, which means we are running emergency relief projects in humanitarian crisis, such as conflict, natural disasters, but also we are supporting acute medical crisis, such as outbreaks of diseases, Ebola, Corona, but also chronic medical crisis, such as multi-resistant tuberculosis, HIV, and such kind of things.
Okay. And we mentioned in the introduction, logistics is like a lifesaver in that case. What roles plays logistics in that organization and the supply for the operations you named?
Well, as you mentioned, our operations would not be working without supply chain, without logistics. We are the backbone for the medical operations. So, we organize the medical supplies internationally or locally. We are ensuring a functioning fleet of cars and trucks, as well as running the facilities in which we are operating, ensuring that they are all well equipped and safe. And overall, like when looking at our operational budget, we are spending something like 15 to 20% on logistics and supply chain related costs. And bringing together also the procurement or the direct purchases, either locally or internationally, it sums up to roughly 45% of the budget, which is spent into supply chain.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought that it's such an important part of the organization. Perhaps in numbers, how many locations are linked by that supply chain worldwide, or how many people are working in this organization?
A number of people I don't have in mind now, but it's about thousands. But like in a way, we are having 3 big supply centers which we are running. They're all based in Europe. One in Amsterdam, one in Brussels, one in Bordeaux. And then additionally to this, we are having various regional hubs, mainly in Eastern Africa, but also in Dubai. And in the moment, we are also kind of thinking about developing an additional hub in South Asia, where allowing us to distribute goods purchased in India in a more efficient way. Maybe some numbers to illustrate our supply chain activities. So like in 2024, all the 3 European supply centers shipped roughly 14,500 tons of goods, where 40% were shipped by air, so something like that. And then our actually bit smaller supply chain supply center here in Amsterdam, we processed in the same time 45,000 order lines, and with a value of overall something like 31 billion euros.
Yeah, I think that's impressive numbers, and what they really contribute to. I think that's what you already discussed. But can you give us a quick overview how a typical journey of a medical unit, for example, looks like? You mentioned you also or the supply chain crew is also responsible for procurement. Maybe you can give just an overview how the journey of a unit looks like, from global procurement all the way to a field hospital in a crisis area, for example.
I would start at a field hospital or the medical unit, having the medical teams, which are defining what are the activities they are performing, have an estimate on how many patients they will treat, how many operations they will perform. And then based on that, they are selecting an assortment of goods they want to have available to run the operations. They can select out of a catalog of thousands of products, medical, non-medical consumables, cars, equipment, tents, stuff, whatever, you name it. And they get also support from various specialists in our headquarters, pharmacists, device specialists, and such kind of functions, which then bring together what they assume they want to consume in a specific period of time. Based on that, we are calculating orders. These are then sent to one of our supply centers, and there we are fulfilling like the orders mainly from stock. So we're trying to fulfill between 60 and 70% of the order lines from stock. Like the other 30% are back-to-back or cross-stock orders. And sometimes we are also placing orders in such way that we're doing direct deliveries from our suppliers directly to the countries where we are operating in. So if the volume is allowing that, so like huge, like 2-3 container loads of therapeutic food directly from the supplier. The stocks in our warehouses are frequently replenished by orders from suppliers throughout the globe. A good chunk of the medical products are purchased from suppliers in Asia, mainly India, where you have the huge manufacturer for generic medicines, and which are affordable for us and actually also of good quality. So that's clear. Like medical products require a very close quality control, and so therefore we have validated suppliers, where we have a team of pharmacists and other specialists which are continuously monitoring the quality of the goods, and which are validating these suppliers. And again, then we are asking them for sure to be compliant with international standards of good distribution, and also the logistic service providers we're collaborating with have to be fully validated in this regard. Then cargoes shipped then either by air or ocean, sometimes by road, to the countries where we are working in. And then our supply chain teams in the country programs are then collecting these goods from the airport, from seaport, together with local partners, and then organizing the onwards transports to the project sites. And then the goods arrive and again, serve their purpose. This whole supply chain for maritime ocean freights are, like you can imagine, that can take months from end to end.
Especially as you mentioned, you are shipping into countries which are perhaps less known to most of our listeners, so conflict zones or crisis regions. What are the challenges you can encounter while shipping there?
Well, various, starting from like having getting permissions for import of goods into the countries, finding the suitable means of transport, the routes in the countries, from whatever seaports, airports to the project locations, getting permissions to access these routes and access the regions where we are operating in. Yeah, and then like that. In the same time, we want to ensure that everything is staying in good shape and transported in the right conditions.
I suppose that requires a lot of flexibility to
Yes,
react
indeed.
to whatever happens,
Yeah.
especially.
And you mentioned you also have been on field trips with MSF. So do you have something in mind where you say, oh, this was a really difficult situation, a very difficult logistic situation where we thought, how should we manage that? How should we overcome these challenges? And
Well, I always like to tell this story about one big vaccination campaign I was involved in as a logistical coordinator. It was in Central Africa, in the country of Chad, where we are organizing like a vaccination campaign against meningitis, and the target was to vaccinate, I think, 500,000 of people. And well, like you can imagine, such a vaccination campaign is a major logistical undertaking. So we had, and it has to happen in a specific period of time, and you need to have like a huge amount of people, again, a huge amount of teams in place, and so we had, I think, 45 teams which are vaccinating at the same time in the same region. That means 90 cars, several trucks, huge amounts of frozen ice packs, fridges, and everything, and generators. Everything needs to be prepared in the evening, that in the morning everybody's can start working. And so it was quite a big undertaking. And then well, like, when we had everything prepared, we were kind of ready for to start. We were still waiting for the vaccines, for sure. They were delivered on time. However, well, when then waiting at the airport and the plane arrived, and we said, okay, well, that's not complete here. We only received these we call it diluents, like it says. So the thing what you're mixing into the vaccine that you can give it to patients. And well, the vaccines themselves, they were missing. And then we're, God, what the heck is going on? And so we like a load of phone calls happened, and then it turned out, well, the vaccines, when being loaded in Paris into the plane, they were loaded into the wrong plane, and like they went instead of to Jamena in Chad, to Havana in Cuba. And there they were waiting. They were sitting there. And so, yeah, what happened? Like that was a big disaster for us, because like we wanted to start with our vaccinations, and luckily, like the operational team in the supply center were able to kind of track down all the problem, and then got the airline on the phone, everybody on the end. They were also running and excusing for their mistake. And like 2 or 3 days later, the vaccines arrived, and like for sure, like you say, okay, my God, like such kind of huge consignment of hundreds of thousands of vaccines flying around the world, literally. Will they be still in good shape? Is there a breach in the cold chain? And so as we like all cold chain packs are having monitoring devices, and so we were able to kind of quickly identify whether that was the case, and like a miracle, like everything was in good shape, and so we were able to start our vaccination campaign with a delay of 2. And but like you can imagine, that was a very stressful experience.
Yeah, so monitoring is a really important part of your job and your team.
Yes.
Then to look that everything planned is, yeah.
Well, putting in place the means of monitoring, that's basically what we are doing. Yes, indeed.
And do you have particular efforts to look at your supply chains to monitor them? Are you having best practices there? For example, how do you monitor your supply chain, ensuring that you know as soon as possible that something is going out of control or missing? Do you have particular topics there?
Well, it's one of the big tasks of my team, and is that we are building up like a better visibility, ideally nearly real time, to collect all data from the various systems which we are using. So in the meantime, we're not anymore using a lot of Excel files, which we were doing at the time when I was still working in the projects. But having ERP systems in place, which we can, where we can use the data from. We're trying to collect them, putting them in a data warehouse, and here then develop reports and analytical reports to monitor our supply chain. And for sure, like now also with like a transport management system, where we are having more and more visibility on where the whereabouts of our consignments.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a little bit the role of your team. So end-to-end supply chain excellence, I think it's the name. So it's all about digital transformation, optimization, enhancing visibility, transparency, and probably also efficiency. And yeah, you already mentioned it. It's one project you were conducting was the introduction of a new transportation management system. It's that what we have been able to provide, and I think the first phase now is completed, and the system is running and delivers results and supports you in your daily operations. And what was the reason to tackle transport management, to introduce such a transportation management system?
2-3 years ago, our transport management was actually pretty much not existing. Like we were kind of we were booking cargoes with logistics service providers, and then getting updates and on the whereabouts by email, and so like I'm keeping track in Excel files and whatever. Still, that was the case. And then like with the decision to kind of use more and more external logistics service providers, not only one, we were in the need of getting a bit better visibility and on our transport operations, and ideally also being able to book them directly with via EDI or APIs with the LSPs.
And so the software supports both your inbound and your outbound process. Perhaps let's start with a quick look into the inbound. How does that process work? What improvements have you through that booking with EDI or the transparency the TMS is bringing to you?
For inbound, we are expecting like that we're getting like better possibilities to consolidate cargos from the various suppliers which we're having in specific regions. For sure, are aiming for efficiency gains. We're not want to spend too much on unnecessary air freight, and then also we're looking into carbon footprint of our operations, and like the more we can consolidate into sea shipments, it's cheaper and also more environmental friendly. friendly. And that is yeah, like it's here also like something what is certainly supporting our ambitious goals in that regard. So yeah, that's from the inbound part where we are very hoping to get the best out of the system here.
Are the goals for the outbound process the same, or does it differ a bit from the inbound?
Well, also, yeah, well, in a way, for sure. Well, like also here, for outbound, we are aiming to kind of reduce the air freight to the minimal like in that case, in that sense. And here, by that is also a possibility to early plan in a proper way shipments out of our warehouses, do earlier shipment, consolidate them into containers. That is certainly an ambition what we're having, yes, indeed. But for outbound, it's also very critical to have like a proper idea about the whereabouts of the goods and having good promise dates, which we can give to our customers in the project countries. And here I'm gaining here visibility on that is one of the key benefits, I would say. And top cost control, like very to have a quick an early idea about committed cost towards transports. I'm saying, okay, this is what we will spend, and so that is then what we are knowing that what kind of budget is still available for other operations, and we're not having to reserve too much for transport or too little or too big. Yeah.
And I can imagine that outbound sometimes is more critical than inbound because shipments need to reach the field quite fast and quickly. And is this the case? And then
Well,
does the system help to speed up things or speed up operations here?
like if there's no inbound cargo coming in, then you can't send anything outbound. Like and that's so like an efficient and effective inbound process and a well-established distribution network helps us to improve at the end-to-end performance and the on-time delivery also to our country programs. So that's at least a theory, I would say. And with the TMS or with the transport management system, we are hoping here to be able to gain more visibility and like by that also speeding up for sure the deliveries or in the very longer term, then looking also like optimizing transport routes by learning from what we on all the historical transports we made and saying, okay, that is maybe we could optimize it here and could optimize it there to be here cheaper or faster.
I have to admit the route selection in the transport management system we implemented for you, that's my personal highlight, really looking at for a destination, which route can be taken, which mode of transport, which carrier. That's such a cool solution. And what is your personal highlight of the TMS?
Well, that's actually it's a nice one indeed. So we are basing all our transport operations on rate cards, which we agree with the LSPs, and for sure trying to establish new lanes or better lanes or faster lanes, and then being able to configure that and then giving the transport operators the possibility to choose the best and the cheapest or the fastest. That is certainly a nice highlight. Another point is for me also the visibility on financial commitments, to have an idea, a better and earlier idea about the cost which we are experiencing when booking transport. Well, and then I think being able to receive pretty much in real time or near real time updates on delays and updated ETAs for our consignments helps us certainly kind of to give then also in the project countries better possibilities to plan and to anticipate whether cargo is arriving on time or with a delay.
Yeah, because you aim to share that information not only for the central teams, but for the mission countries to have earlier access to that transport
So
information.
yeah, once an estimated time of arrival is updated by a logistics service provider, we're receiving this as an event in the TMS. We're pushing this as event into our ERP system, which is then further pushing that down to the ERP system, which we're using in the project countries. So we're trying here to have a really end-to-end integration, and then by that increasing the visibility for everybody in the chain.
Sounds so interesting, which the features to hear what they can do in practice and how that works. And maybe regarding the collaboration, I know that Jan, you worked very closely together with Antoine in the project, I think, when introducing the system. How was the collaboration? So yeah, I mean, I can ask this question. Hopefully, I wasn't part of the project teams, but yeah, how did you experience AEB?
Well, generally, it was very close collaboration, and like it also it was actually big fun to work with with people who are having a good understanding of what we are doing, and understood very quickly the requirements what we're having, and like in various points also came up with very good recommendations or good valuable advice on how could we do it better. That was actually kind of really appreciated.
And I mean, there is not only positives, so perhaps for other people or listeners interested into implementation of a TMS, what would be your lessons learned from such a project or approach?
Well, in the beginning, for sure, we knew implementing such a system is quite a complex undertaking. Yeah? So it requires it's multiple integrations with multiple partners, and so that is not easy, and that's certainly quite a complexity behind that. But then when doing it, well, we learned it's actually even more complex than we actually thought, and that's so the complexity was certainly underestimated, as well as the change control towards our internals and internally, so within the departments or within the teams. But then also with our logistics service providers, that also required change from their side, and that also took quite some time to kind of get them all aligned.
Yeah, that's something I would remember too, as we change such a crucial central part of your supply chain, that every stakeholder of the supply chain is impacted. Of course, we hope as positive as possible, but it's a change at least at the beginning, and that's definitely a lesson learned. It's not only about the own company and the internal teams, but all the people aligned in the supply chain.
And how did you manage this complexity and this internal change? Are there some advice that you can give, or some things that worked out quite well when coping with complexity?
Well, I wouldn't have named it as a lessons learned if I would have said we were doing it perfectly. It was basically it's a lot of communication, a lot of introduction, training, learning, catching up, trying to listening to the to the pain points, and trying to address them. And that's also luckily we had also the possibility to that in some points AEB was adapting very quickly to issues which were arising while implementing the system. So that actually was very helpful in that
Yes.
sense also.
And regarding the partners around the supply chain, I mean, the first one is always the most difficult, and then with every further partner implemented or integrated, it gets easier
Indeed.
because you have the lessons learned from the previous phase. So here, that progressive approach is really helping. And we started with outbound, then came inbound. For me personally, I found the inbound phase a bit easier because better understanding of the system, of the stakeholders. So it's a good way to have a progressive approach, I think,
Yeah, indeed.
especially when the complexity is so high.
Indeed, Antoine, like that was it's a big learning to kind of saying, hey, well, I'm like not going live at once with everything, but like be like iteratively trying to extend. That was certainly a good choice to do so.
I mean, we still have a lot to do for sure, but do you want to share a bit of where's your digital journey hiding to?
Well, yeah, like continuing with the extending the transport management, we're kind of like looking more into the consolidation possibilities. Then like we are at the same time aiming to improve the warehouse management of mainly in our regional hubs, so that we then can also better integrate their like the data or the goods which are sitting there and should be distributed into the transport management. And then another topic which is a bit not necessarily linked to what we are currently doing with regards to transport management and warehouse management is that we are improving the possibilities to manage our stocks in the project countries as well as in the distribution hubs by introducing like scanning devices. You would not expect that maybe from a on a normal supply chain professionals in bigger companies, they for sure everything is scanned in their warehouse, and for us it's still a lot of manual recording, manual no, data capturing, and here we are implementing a scanning device which is like supporting us by reading QR codes, but also doing OCR. That will be a big achievement, what we are also looking forward to.
Sounds great.
And if you think of the supply chain of the future a little bit more ahead of projects that are already planned or inside, is there anything that you think, oh, if I could have this for our supply chain operations, for our supply chain planning, this would be really cool? So do you have one wish for your supply chain?
You know that also it's crucial to have a good demand forecasting, a good demand planning. Otherwise, it's the supply chain is not working. And here we certainly still have a lot to learn and still a lot to do. But it's also not so easy. Looking at the contexts we are working in, ever-changing programs. The nature of the activities is not that we are doing stable selling of goods, but it's kind of it's running up and down, and then programs are changing. So like that is it's super complex to come here, and then also with these long lead times and the long forecasting periods we're having, it's not very easy to come to very good forecasts, and that's and also demand planning processes in general. And that is a topic which we certainly will need to look at in the coming future period.
At least I hope that the data you can gain now from the transport management system will help, as part of the larger solution, of course, because all systems needs to be included. But I hope we can contribute to that target.
Yeah, and so we've been now with wishes for the supply chain. And speaking of wishes, your work and the whole operation of MSF is funded by donations. So you're working independently by these donations and are able to set up really, provide help around the globe. And I think that's why we at AEB decided to support you with our annual Christmas donation, which runs under the motto as Chain of Fortunate Circumstances. And I think, the idea is we look together into the transportation man system and into the data that triggers our Christmas donation. And what we said is that for every cubic meter of freight that was processed through the TMS so far, we donate €5.
That's great.
And we want to even take it further by involving our listeners. And that's so we set ourselves another goal is that to find as many listeners willing to donate €10 as you have processed shipments in the system. So it's we look for AEB, we look at the cubic meter that we have processed, and for our listeners, we look at the number of shipments that have been processed. And Antoine, I think you looked yesterday into the system and you have some current numbers.
Yes, so after 5 months, we have 231 consignments, and those are for about 2,980 cubic meters of freight, which was handled and processed through our TMS. So with what you mentioned before, the €5 per cubic meter, we are around 15,000 euros, which AEB will donate to MSF for their Christmas action.
That would be great.
That's cool. Yeah. And if we find 231 listeners that donate each 10 euros, would be also, I think, even better, I would say, in addition to the 15,000 euros. So, and it's really easy. So just please, if you're now saying, hey, and it's really worth to support MSF and their operation, because logistics here really literally saves lives. So just take a look at the show notes of the podcast, and then you can find the link to the donation page and just complete your details there. And then it's so easy to save also lives with your support. And then, we would really appreciate if you can support the activities of MSF here.
Thanks a lot.
Jan, while our listeners now open the show notes, look for the details in the donation page, maybe you can also underline that and explain how important are donations for your work.
Every euro which is spent into or is donated to MSF is actually kind of helping us to also improve our logistics on the one hand, and but also on the other hand, and which is more important, to deliver life-saving goods to the patients in need. And and on top, MSF as an organization is fully relying on private donations, so we are not receiving any money from states or international funding mechanisms. So that's where we are fully relying on private donations, and that's one of the key parts. So the more people donate, the better, and the more we can save lives.
We're happy to be part of that journey and to support you, because it's really a great thing you are doing.
Thanks a lot.
We're crossing our fingers that many donations will come in, and we hope that you can continue your incredible work successfully, and that even make it to a broader scope, even more wider scope and more wider reach. So Jan, thank you very much for being our guest today and giving us some insights on your supply chain and your operations. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you.
And of course, Merry and peaceful Christmas to all of you hearing us.